Hey everyone, welcome to another Project Life Process video. It's week 10, so I'm finally in the double digits, and I've got a relatively simple layout this week. I am using products from Feed Your Crafts kit from earlier this month that I shared in a previous video, and I really love this kit. I already mentioned that in the last video, and you'll just get to see some of the products in action in this video. So I'm starting off with a frame from the Currently collection. You've seen me use a bunch of these frames in several different weeks, and this week it has kind of the card I'm using has kind of a bunch of orange and peach tones, so I thought this frame went really well with the cards that I picked out. And then I'm using this ombre peach ink because I wanted to have a couple different color options for my little date stamp, and I think I ended up going with the lighter one. So this week I'm going to put the date stamp directly on, or I'm going to paste that directly on to the frame because I made a little bit of a tear in the frame when I was pulling it out of the package, and I just needed a way to cover that up. So it's a little bit thicker than the actual width of the frame, so I ended up chopping off the bottom so it kind of peeked off the bottom of it, and that way it would fit a little bit better. And I'm using my ATG gun to glue that down, and I'm getting used to it a little bit more. I'm definitely not a pro yet. I just added a couple staples with my tiny attacher, and that stapler works surprisingly well on chipboard. And then right here, I'm taking an old stamp from Christine Heron, and I'm putting that on this photo here, and I use the ombre ink pad once again. So next I'm working on this bottom photo here, and I wanted to add this stamp that came with the Feed Your Craft kit, and I'm going to use some pigment ink, the same stuff I used last week that was blue, and I don't know what I was thinking because blue is not really in this layout, and I definitely have a better matching green pigment ink that I could have used here. But anyway, I don't think it makes a huge difference. But I'm just testing it out on this photo paper thing that came with my Costco photos just to see how it would look on the light background because I was afraid it wasn't going to show up. And it really didn't show up super well unless it was like on the stark white part of that sample photo. So I ended up going with putting it on the water part of that photo, and then I'm just journaling around the whole thing with a black pen. And now I'm working on my weekly date or number card, and now that I'm in double digits, it's weird. I'm gonna have to use 2 stamps every single week, which is, I don't know, it's not a big deal, but I just have been using one for like 10 weeks or 9 weeks rather, so just a little change about how the spacing and stuff will work. And I'm using a green pigment ink from Color Theory, but I don't totally recommend those just because they're just as good as the Versamark ones and like 3 or 4 times the price. And I use the ombre ink for the numbers and my favorite orange, which is Tillamook from Ali Edwards. And then I have these empty washi tapes, and I realized the coral and the light green colors matched the colors in that journaling card so well, so I decided to put those down, kind of an impromptu thing just to fill up the space at the bottom. And then I added another green color because I realized that went too, so this washi tape set ended up being perfect for this layout, and it was actually kind of my favorite part of it in the end, and it wasn't something I was really planning that hard. So then here I decided I want to put a little label on this picture of these delicious potatoes I made. This is a recipe called papas a la huancainas, I think is about how you say it. It's a Peruvian cheese sauce, and it is the most delicious cheese sauce ever. It really is so good, and it's so easy to make. It just has one weird ingredient, which is ají amarillo peppers that are a little bit tricky to find, but I actually ordered them off of Amazon. And this recipe is from Tastemade. There's a great video online by my favorite YouTube chef, and yeah, you should look it up if you're interested. So while I was going on about the potatoes right there, I added a stamp with the green Color Theory pigment ink and the Hero Arts Clearly Kelly stamps. It was the food themed one. And then I just pasted that label and wrote a little bit about it on the bottom there. And then here I have this ticket from a concert I went to, and I wanted to include it just because I really like ephemera a lot. I think it's just really fun, and that I think it'll be really cool to look at in the future. And then I added the really cute little fake, not a fake clip, but it's just a picture of a clip, but I decided to kind of make it hang off the edge. And that's from the Currently collection. And then I'm just adding this little stamp that says, we saw this. And my video is actually going to cut off after this, but that's okay because I really didn't do too much for this layout after I added this stamp. I just journaled around the edge of this ticket just because I wanted to make sure the concert that I went to was a cover band and not the actual band, so I just wanted to make sure that was clear in my project life, so I didn't think, oh, I went to see this band if I look at this like years later. And I'm just adding a couple tiny attacher staples, and I'm going to journal around it, the whole ticket right there, and that's where the video cuts off. But the only other thing I did is I journaled on the top photo with a white pen, and that is it. So here's a look at the final layout. I really love the colors going on here, but I gotta say the gray tones from these photos kind of bothered me a little bit when it all came together. It just seemed a little bit dark and dreary for how bright the colors were. So I don't know, if you have any tips for that, leave them in the comments below, or let me know how you deal when you have kind of darker photos. So thanks so much for joining me again for another week. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you next week for week 11.